Alright folks, welcome. This is Old School Johnny coming to a special video today in celebration of Batman Day. So many people probably know that Batman is probably one of my favorite characters as far as comic book characters go, but characters that are portrayed on the screen. So today is Batman Day, or hopefully when you guys will be watching it, it's going to be the day after Batman Day. But today I wanted to give a special video of why I love Batman. And, you know, to me, like I said, there's so much about this character that I could almost go on for almost an hour. But I thought I'd give you a nice 10-minute, video on why Batman to me is so important and why he is a huge part of my life. So first, I'm going to give 5 reasons. So we're going to start off with number 5. Number 5, I believe that Batman has such a cool logo. The Bat logo is one of the things I love. That, yellow and black here, as you can see here from my Batman mask, is probably one of the most recognizable, symbols in the world. And I didn't think they would know that 80 some years ago when they created this logo of how powerful that it would be. I mean, when you see this in the sky, in the cartoons or anything like that, if you put this in the air, people know who it is. People don't even have to be necessarily, comic book fans to know that this here is Batman. I mean, the only other person's symbol I think that's really close to this would be Superman. But to me, Batman is just so much more powerful. Now, let's go on to number 4. Number 4 is Batman, I believe, is one of the coolest characters because of what he has as far as his, different gadgets and the bat suit and the Batmobile and all the cool things that he uses. Because Batman doesn't actually have a superpower. He's one of the comic book heroes that actually uses his intellect, his skill, to beat his adversaries and his villains. And with his use of his brain as being a good detective, he comes up with these cool gadgets. I mean, from the depictions in the cartoons and the comic books, there's no cooler car, I think, in all of history than the Batmobile. And over these 80 some years, we've gone to a basic little convertible car Batmobile, to a almost armored tank Batmobile, into this new version. Looks like it's going back out to like a car version of the Batmobile, where you could almost shoot out a motorcycle in it. It could climb rooftops. I mean, there's nothing cooler than the Batmobile. But then you also have a suit. Now, Iron Man has a cool suit, but I think the Bat suit is amazing because of the different things it could do. It could shoot stuff. It could, try to get you away from dogs, as we saw in The Dark Knight, or we saw that, it could be powerful against certain weapons. Just like the character of Batman, Batman's gadgets evolve as time goes on as well, which makes him so unique because he's always evolving. And that's one of the things that I'm going to kind of segue into next and why I love Batman, is that the Batman story is simple when we think about it as a whole, right? Batman, witnessed his parents' death when he was younger. But why do we get so connected to Batman? And I believe it's because that psychology of Batman. And when we get to my top reason, we're going to go into depth a little bit more why I love Batman. But the psychology of Batman is really unique because, again, Batman doesn't have any superpowers, but yet he's willing to help. Batman, the story is he's very rich and wealthy, so he doesn't necessarily have to help. But he goes out every night and, he fights crime. But he also is unique because we always have that question with Batman is he doing the right thing? He's always pushed to that point of, going too far, to the edge, especially with his villains. His villains like the Joker and Riddler always push Batman to that edge of maybe I'm going too far. And I've always liked the character of Batman because he's a lot more grittier. He's not like a Superman. He's not jokey like Spider-Man or, Deadpool. Batman rarely even tells a joke. And then when he does, we kind of don't laugh. Kind of like me, right? I got some dry humor. And Batman's jokes are kind of like with dry humor. But I love Batman because his story is a little bit darker. So when we get this, arc or this Gotham City and stuff like that, it's so different than being in New York, because when we look at Batman in that Gotham City kind of way, it's such a darker place. And I've always been able to kind of connect with it because the world isn't always rainbows and butterflies, as we say. So I've always thought that Batman, has this ability to show us the darker side of everyone, everyone's character, whether it be through its villains, but most all, it also tells us of our internal battle that we all face. And I think that's why we kind of have that connection with Bruce Wayne, because we also sometimes are fighting with that. Are we going too far? Are we going to this different edge? Of all the Batman films, one of the films I loved the most was Batman Begins, because it really concentrated on the concept of fear. And you wouldn't think of someone like Bruce Wayne had fear and how he had to conquer that. And there was just so many good themes that Batman, the comic, has, or all that, whether it be dealing with fear, or, dealing about, how far am I willing to go? Or am I doing the right thing? Questioning all that stuff. So I've always loved Batman for that reason as well. And now it segues, because I've talked about this, is that there is no comic book character that's put to this movie screen, I'm a movie person, that has so much power than Batman. In 1989, no one would have thought that people would put a comic book character to screen. It had been done with Superman in the 80s, but we gotta remember, Batman wasn't always the dark, gritty Batman that we thought of today. Batman was sometimes in the 60s, with the Adam West and, people doing those dances with the fingers and stuff like that. No, Batman had come a long way. So when Tim Burton's Batman came out, we saw, this different version, a little bit more grittier, people loved it. And people said, you know what, we are willing to give these comic book movies another chance. But we had the first Batman and Batman Returns, and people were like, whoa, when they saw that version of the Penguin with Danny DeVito. And, remember Tim Burton was going to get signed up for another one. They're like, maybe we want this more for kids. We're like, this is a little bit gritty. And we kind of went on a big hiatus of, again, there not being comic book characters on the screen. And then all of a sudden comes, Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins. Again, Batman, huge character, comes onto the scene again, and we're getting this darker, grittier version, and people couldn't get enough. And just when we thought, well, he did a good job with Batman Begins, then comes The Dark Knight. And The Dark Knight, and people were like, wow, we've never saw this version of the Joker before. And again, we had those later iterations of Batman. Some people don't like the Ben Affleck version. I mean, I could say that although it's not my favorite version, I'm willing to give it a chance, especially when the Snyder Cut comes out. And then we finally have this new version coming out with Robert Pattinson. And if you have not yet seen the trailer of it, it's definitely worth the peek. But there's no character, I think, that's more important to all of us, or audiences, when it comes to the big screen than it is Batman. Now, I love Darth Vader. I think he's one of the more important characters on screen. But when it comes to Batman, it's so important, especially for the actors who have the opportunity to play Batman and people to do it. It helps people's careers. It's just so important. Batman's one of those characters where you have to take care and do a good job because of what people love with him. So my final reason of why I love Batman, and like I said, I can go on and on and on, is my number reason is Batman by far has the best rogues gallery or villains of all superheroes. To me, in any movie or comic book series, your hero is only as good as your villains. And Batman's villains normally cannot physically beat Batman, but yet they push Batman to a certain edge, to a certain degree. Some other comic book characters are able to do that, but most of them could physically match their heroes. Thanos was a big physical force. He could go toe-to-toe, if not beat all the Avengers. But the Joker doesn't really pose a physical threat to Batman, but yet he's able to get Batman into Batman's psyche and push Batman to a point where he almost crosses the edge, right? We know one of Batman's big things is he won't kill, but a lot of his villains get him so close that he almost has to. I find that to be unique. But it's not just the Joker. It could be the Riddler. The Riddler could go intellectually toe-to-toe with Bruce Wayne, who's the world's greatest detective. But then we also have villains like Mr. Freeze, who maybe not intellectually can go there, but maybe can connect with Batman on an emotional level with his, wife Nora. Or we also have the Penguin, which I believe is a really cool Batman villain because he has a similar story to Bruce Wayne with his parents and earlier on and coming from wealth. So there's so many characters in Batman, rogues gallery that's just able to be relatable to people. When we talk about the Scarecrow and about fear, I talked about Batman Begins, that's a character that plays into it. So that is why I love Batman. I'm going to love Batman. It's 80 some years since it did. Obviously, I'm not 80 years old, but I think Batman's going to be sticking around for longer than this 82 years. I'm so happy that DC gave us the opportunity to, celebrate this iconic character. I wanted to come out and celebrate this iconic character. And, I know HBO Max, you've heard me talk about this on my channel before. If you're looking for an opportunity to celebrate this iconic character, I encourage you to go on HBO Max now and watch some of the Batman things. And hopefully all of you have a good Batman day. If there's anybody to be a good role model for us all, I think we always should be Batman. So instead of, waking up and, feeling bad about yourself, maybe every day we could start and say, I'm Batman. Even though I can't say it like Kevin Conroy. So thank you for joining me, guys, and me sharing my love for Batman. I hope everyone has a really good Saturday.